Good morning.
Good morning. How is everybody?
Great.
Perfect.
Glad to be here.
Good stuff. So look, Philip, I'd like to start with you. Hunkemoller had a really successful turnaround, and you and your team spearheaded that. At the heart of that was you developing a really robust omnichannel engagement program. So can you maybe shed a little bit more light on social's role in that whole evolution of the business?
Yeah, just to sort of let a lot of people know, our business is 133 years old, slightly older than New Balance, but our average customer is only 28 years old, so we're trying to make a very old business very young. When we took over the business, the average customer was over 41 years old, and she's now 28. And what we needed to do was we needed to completely change our marketing strategy, and then social really came in very, very early. We adopted it far sooner than most other people. And we changed the way that we marketed. I think we were one of the first people to do guerrilla marketing, flash mobs, and then we quickly moved into all the social elements, which has really driven the change of our business. We have a huge member card program, which has moved from a plastic card into a digital card, and what we've got is 72.3% of every one of my sales is actually done by somebody we know. So we really, and then we tried to blend that together in terms of our member program into all of our social behavior, and we really believe that it is important not to be social externally, but also internally. So we really look at how we create ambassador programs where equally our internal staff are heavily involved in it. So we moved from really traditional marketing. We still do a huge amount of television. We do 5 very large European campaigns with television, but then we've moved very heavily into YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and we used a lot with Facebook as a test pilot because of the interaction that our consumer has with social media. And we've just seen, it is such an important element of how we can grow in terms of both reach and engagement. And then we'll talk about later about how important SCOM has become as a part of our true business in terms of driving top-line sales.
Thanks, absolutely. So, Julie, I'd like to move on to Coca-Cola for a little while. You guys took a really brave decision, absolutely ripped up the rule book, and decided to shut down all of your existing social media marketing channels and programs, and have recently set yourselves the goal of becoming the most optimistic brand in the world. How did that come about?
Well, first, I want to add one thing. And
sure.
For all of you that are here, I know you know Coca-Cola, or at least I hope you all know Coca-Cola. You may be thinking, what do the two of us have in common sitting up here? Very different industries. But I think one of the things we both have in common is we were both founded in the same year. Yep. So we're both 133-year-old brands who are learning and leading in the social space as we have to reinvent how we build brands, how we connect with consumers. So to answer your question, we did take a very significant step and put the goal of being the most optimistic brand on social media. Now, while that was ambitious, we believe that it is a perfect fit for a brand like Coca-Cola.
Sure.
For those 133 years, we have always stood for optimism, about finding the best in people, about being part of special occasions that make life's small moments, whether that's having a meal with friends or enjoying a holiday, that we've always wanted to be a part of that. So I think this is really the evolution of those 133 years of history about the brand in a much more contemporary way. And also recognizing that a brand has a responsibility, and our responsibility is to stand up for optimism in particularly a social and internet world that increasingly causes stress and causes concern and can be very, very negative. To really take a stand about being true to what our brand is, but doing it in a very contemporary way.
Great. And that's a really noble cause. And I guess to dig a little bit deeper into that, everybody in the room knows the Coca-Cola brand. I think 96% of the population know the logo and have their own perception of it. And you guys have done lots of different things in terms of your marketing and social media presence in the 133 years that you've been a business. So you're effectively trying to reset people's perceptions. How's that going?
Well, I'd say we're really not really resetting. We're just trying to be relevant. And I think a big piece of when you have a brand that's 133 years old, and we're just talking about our brand Coca-Cola at the moment because we have several hundred other brands that are part of our company, some that are very new and very small, but a big brand that has recognition by more than 90% of the world, and you have to keep it relevant, and you have to embrace the new ways of doing things. So I think the first panel talked about that, really about being a startup inside, and so you have to take that mentality and push the boundaries, and that can be a challenge because you have to be willing to move forward and embrace new ways of doing things, and sometimes that means letting go of things that have worked really, really well for you. So I think you'll continue to see us do that with the whole goal of remaining relevant and being laser focused on that end consumer who enjoys that Coca-Cola, that parts with their dollar or their euro or their dirham to pay for it, and that's critically important.
Good. I love that because if you don't change, you die. And,
yes.
And, obviously you need.
You see that all the time now. So.
We've seen it regularly in the last couple of years, so that definitely makes sense. I guess I want to go back to kind of the wider topic. Social media engagement is so effective when it comes to reach, and is so effective when it comes to really building that connection with the customer. But as the programs mature, there's more and more pressure on them to contribute to the top line. And Philip, you mentioned the importance of ESCOM, but obviously they're two very different challenges. So how do you guys go about kind of balancing meeting the needs of those two different obstacles?
Social always started with reach and engagement. It was all about building brand awareness. It was always making sure that you were relevant. We've got very clear brand values, both internally and externally. And it was really making sure that, in effect, it was really creating a new means to get to our consumers. And what you must remember now, before poor customer service was, you had poor customer service, and basically you told, I think it was 6 people who told 6 people. Now, of course, you can tell 1 million people if you've had a poor service. We're in a very delicate market. Ladies' underwear is a very sensitive market, and you've seen some of our peers in the market being attacked. So again, we have to be very clear about what we want to do in terms of the reach and engagement, the diversity of our models, skin color, body shapes, etc. So we got that, and then of course, at the end of the day, we're a commercial business. We're owned by private equity, and at the end of the day, my role is to basically return money back to our investors. So at the end of the day, this is a new route, in another marketing route, but we need to make sure that we don't destroy all the good work we've done on reach and engagement, in effect, just for the finances. But it is the new marketing tool. So where we've moved away from out of home, even television we've moved away from, we really are spending a vast amount of more money on social media, but to get both things, the brand recognition, and we've got between 90 and 93 brand recognition in all of our key markets. We're #1 in most of the major European markets as the ladies' underwear brand. Being #1 and same as Coca, it's not always easy. Actually, sometimes it's better to be #2 and chase #1. So you're always the person that people observe the most. So therefore, you're the one that everybody is looking to fool. So, and as you know, 1 or 2 of our competitors have come under a lot of criticism recently. So we need to be very clear about what we're doing on social media, how we're presenting ourselves as a brand, and then also it is really about how can we take a proportion of that and drive it into ESCOM, which is our commercial side. And we're getting somewhere in the region of between 7 and 10% of our e-com sales come from social-driven media. So it's growing extremely fast.
Wow.
Now, we've got a revenue on e-com. Only 4 years ago, we only turned over 10 million on e-com. This year was 118 million. And this financial year, we think we will be somewhere between 160 and 180 million of e-com sales. And I'm not sure where Escom will come into play, but it will be in excess of 10% of that will come through an Escom point.
Wow, so that's pretty significant. And
yeah, and the world is changing, and Instagram buy button has will become extremely important. I'd love to tell you it was the eureka moment when we launched it. It wasn't, but I'm sure longer term that will become the eureka moment where people can see product, click through, and purchase. That will be the future.
Great, thanks. And Julie, I mean, the same question to you, and I guess it's especially challenging because Coca-Cola is so well known, and when you're dealing with a brand and budgets that big, then it becomes increasingly complex. So, how do you balance those two challenges?
Yeah, I think there's really two key points on this. First, when you have a marketing organization that has done things kind of the same way for a long time,
yep.
You have to build not only the skill in, but you've got to build the metrics. Mm-hmm. And so we've spent a lot of time really building what those metrics are.
Sure.
And how do you measure what's successful? So that's required a whole lot of thinking and science because, we knew if an ad, what it scored and what your reach and frequency were and how you purchased media. And now we've had to really change how we budget, how we determine is it a success, what are you trying to achieve with it. The second point is that for a multi-branded company like us, it differs by brand. So it's not a one-size-fits-all anymore. And so you used to build a brand, and if we were going to build a new beverage brand, everybody fought over getting television media, and you had to create your commercial, right?
Yep.
If you were a brand manager and you didn't create a commercial, you were obviously not doing your job right? That was the epitome of being a brand manager. And so now we have entire brands that are built through social with no traditional, advertising media behind it. And so you have to understand what the brand is, who your consumer is, and then really find out where and how to leverage social. Because otherwise you can pour a lot of money into programs that are not maybe achieving what you want.
Yeah, absolutely, makes sense. And I was going to go into it later, but since you touched on it, maybe kind of understand that a little bit more. Coca-Cola owns so many brands, and they fit so many different profiles. You've touched on it a little bit there, but how do you deploy social, and what do you try to achieve depending upon the different profile of the brands?
Yeah. So social, I think, it's a great opportunity for the smaller brands, for the brands that are just starting, your challenger brands, your ones we're exploring with. A great opportunity to test and learn. Yeah. And some of the things that we've seen is that, we operate in 200 countries around the world, and social has given us a great low-cost entry to test. Yeah. So we can take a product, and one that comes to mind is Valser water, which is a mineral water, and from those of you from Europe know it, and put it into online retail for a limited quantity only in China.
Sure.
And determine if there's interest. And so we can find that out prior to investing in supply chain, prior to investing in traditional media behind it, prior to trying to import a product from Europe over to Asia. So that's really changed the dynamic of how we look at building brands, testing brands. We're doing a lot of in partnership with our customers, which really are most of our retail partners. Yep. We're testing new flavors. We test new brands, and that's opened a whole new low cost of entry to building brands. So for us, it's a very different way to build brands than you traditionally did.
Okay, thanks for that, because obviously it's good to understand the dichotomy. Philip, I just wanted to go back to that trade-off between Escom and generating revenue and achieving reach, because you guys did something really novel at Hunkemoller. You actually live stream one of your fashion shows, and people can buy whatever they like, the items that they see on the catwalk in real time. So that's a really novel solution that kind of covers both those bases. How did that come into being? How did you create that concept?
My marketing director's over there and my e-com director, I think we put a lot of pressure on them to be able to do it. I had this dream that I really wanted to do it. It became slightly more complex than because the CEO doesn't understand any of the technology. I just wanted it to happen, and these guys made it happen. But it was great. First of all, we had a huge amount of people that actually watched it live, and of course then you could play it back afterwards, streamed through our website and through Facebook. We took in just under 3 million through that event. It was great. We didn't really expect to take a huge amount of money. It was more about publicising it and actually creating some amazing product that people could actually buy. And we're just about to do our next one only in about 2 or 3 weeks' time.
Sure.
And we really believe it's incredibly important. I slightly disagree with Julia. I think Escom is going to become very expensive. I think it started off as a very cheap marketing media. It's now becoming an extremely expensive marketing media because there's paid influencers, and we'll get onto that later. What started off as a very cost-effective way of communicating with the consumer, because actually they were doing it for you. The world changes, somebody else comes in, and you have to compete against everybody else. But actually, the show for us was really amazing, and it really created another mark that we had done something very, very different. We're doing it again. The show will be very different again. Also had to really think about how can we do something different. Yeah. And we're doing a whole thing. It's called I Am, and it's I Am a Woman, and they will live through all of our brand values, and we've selected a model for each one of our brand values. And these aren't models in most cases. They're actually influencers.
Okay.
So we've picked Europe's runner-up from the plus-size model. We've picked some strong influencers. So we've really got a cross of women of different shapes, sizes, colour, to make sure that every person is covered. We're not going to the extreme of Rihanna, but equally, in life you have to change. Yeah. You really have to change. And I think really intimate apparel is a very delicate position to be in. It's probably the most fun job I've done, but actually over the last year it's become a very delicate job as well, and we really have to be careful about what we do, what we say, what we post, and very different countries look at different posts in a very different way. So we have Russia, we have Sweden, we have the whole of Central Europe. And some of the countries where you believe certain posts will work, they fail. We now have social people in every single country, because it really needs to be, we call it glocal, which is acting global, but making sure that it's all relevant to the local. And that's probably been one of our most eureka moments where that's really worked. But where you see places like Sweden, they really look at pictures in a very different way to our core markets do. Russia, we believed one image was right for Russia, and actually we've actually been wrong. So it is really making sure that you listen to the local countries, the social media teams we've got in the local countries, use the relevant brand ambassadors in the countries. Most of the brand ambassadors are really country specific. They're really not as global as you think they are. They're very localized. And if they are localized, that's when we get the best Escom off it. So when they do a post, people really say, this person's posted this because they believe in the product. But we've also moved into, how do you seed product? It all becomes more sophisticated. So we have an amazing tool on our website called Alapic, which basically scrapes the social media of anybody that's hashtagged Hunkemoller. We select the pictures, we put them onto our website, and we have an over 10% conversion from those pictures. So it really just shows you, when you put the product on just a normal person, much better click-through rates.
Right.
Great, makes sense.
To build on that, and he was talking really about doing things differently, right? One of the things that we've had to do and think differently about is some of our assets.
Sure.
So if you think about Coca-Cola, we have a lot of coolers, fridges, we have vending machines, we have shelves in grocery stores, and we've had to really think about how to use those assets differently.
Yep.
And how to tie those into social. So you used a digital runway. We have our freestyle fountain machine.
Yep.
And that can let us either create unique beverages for some of our customers. So in working with some of our theme parks, you know how they have different worlds as you walk through. Each of those have a different unique flavor that people can go and sample and collect. We also use the data that comes back to find and create new drinks. So in the US, some of you may have seen we're going to be launching Coca-Cola Orange Vanilla, and Orange Vanilla Zero Sugar. And that all came from using our freestyle fountain equipment and the data and the digital screen to determine what people were actually mixing when they're given free choice, and turning that into a commercialized beverage. So we're also using coolers through AI and digitally enabling them. So started off saying, well, we'd be great to use technology to determine where our assets go, because you'd be surprised that big coolers somehow get legs and walk off, and we have no idea where they disappear to. So it started off very simply that, but it's turned into a social tool where you can communicate to consumers in front of a cooler. You can provide marketing offers. You can add music or sound to their experience when they open the cooler. So we're really finding new ways to look at existing and what I'd call maybe traditional old-fashioned assets and turn them into a digital social tool that we already kind of own inside our portfolio.
Wow, okay, so you guys have to be creative and work a way around a problem, but obviously there are some cool ways of doing that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Philip, I guess you guys have got a far more conventional asset base, and everyone's absolutely obsessed with this whole idea of having a seamless experience for the customer, irrespective of which channel they engage in. No one wants to talk about omnichannel anymore, it's all just commerce. So how do you tie your social media programs into what's going on across the other channels?
Let's just say we've got 950 owned stores, not including franchise stores. So, and we were a legacy brand, remember. So the only good thing is over the last 5 years, we've opened in excess of 100 stores a year. But we've had to change our whole customer journey. So it was a very simple customer journey before. It was meet and greet, cross-sell and upsell, fitting room, and then the kiss goodbye. It was very simple. And then we've had to embed social, omni, every element into that journey. So we have click and collect, check and reserve, order in store, return to store. Sure. So we've complicated that whole customer journey. It's not going to go away. It's only going to get more and more enhanced. We're putting in more and more tablets in the store so we can have self-assisted salespeople can have do everything from a tablet, and on that tablet we'll now have all of your social feed. So 72.3% of all our sales are done by a member card. We will be able to see you. We will be able to see all your social feed on the tablet. We will be able to see if you did a positive comment, a negative comment. We'll be able to see your shopping behavior. So we will be able to enhance you for all of your for all the data we've got. We've got a social listening tool called Cusco, which pulls all of the social media and then puts it to the relevant departments. And we've got a new tooling called Achu, which is a tool that actually measures the impact, reach, engagement of our brand ambassadors. Wow. And our brand ambassador program is incredibly important. So we have Mega Ambassador, which is Doubts Cruz, one of the ex-Angels. Then we have a Micro and Macro. In terms of the macro, we have people who are country-specific but powerful influencers. So Pamela Reif in Germany, Anna Nushin in Holland, and the kind of Katarina also in Germany, which have in excess of 5+ million followers. And then we have an ambassador program at the micro level where we have 93 at the moment. It will be, we think by the end of the year, close to 200 smaller micro ambassadors. And then we have 39 internal ambassadors who are our Saturday girls who have, in some cases, up to 50,000 followers. And those are the most powerful because when they say, I love this product, the people, their 50,000 followers, believe they know that person. They really believe they know that person. And so they are some of the most powerful influencers. And we've done the same as everybody else. We have social walls in stores that you can take pictures of yourself and post it. Again, very sensitive when you're in the middle of a ladies' underwear store. So we also have to be a bit careful at that. But we're adding all of these different elements into the store to create excitement in the stores. Stores are changing. So we have flagship stores, which are becoming more and more important. I'm sure we will get to the point where we start to reduce the amount of stores we have. I think that's inevitable. But again, we're still planning for just close to 100 stores again this year. But actually, the world is changing, and we were adding more and more technology into the store to ensure that customer journey is actually fused together from the old legacy into the new social elements.
Wow, okay, that's fascinating, so thanks for that.
We've got a very different story in that, well, we really don't, unlike you have we don't own the end-to-end journey because we are sold and most often purchased through a grocery store, a restaurant, a cinema. And so we have to work really closely with those customer partners of ours on what that consumer experience looks like.
Yep.
And some of those channels are much easier to do that in than others. Mm-hmm. And so we've really, from a internal standpoint, had to rethink what the kind of suite of value-added services our sales and customer people provide. We've had to build new capabilities in our system to be able to advise and partner and collaborate with our customers on how do you bring those unique experiences to life to not only sell more of our products, but to do it through another person's store. So that has really required understanding and having expertise in areas that, frankly, 5-10 years ago we didn't have. And to be able to then bring to life the experience in an outlet that someone else's owns.
Sure.
And having to understand what their objectives are, what their brand is, what they're trying to achieve, and then find the ways to do it together. So it adds a complicated layer. The process is still the same, but now you've got two parties who are vested in it. So you just have to, it's a little bit more challenging.
No, absolutely, but it sounds like you guys have got it covered. Well, look, there are several more questions that I'd love to ask you both, but I'm conscious that we're running short on time, and the audience probably have questions that they'd love to ask you, so I'd like to open it up to the floor. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask the panelists? All right, guys. Well, look, been a fascinating conversation, so appreciate all the answers and the insights. Thank you very much. If you guys could give it up for our panelists, we're about done here.
Great. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thanks very much.